What are the current challenges that manufacturing folks, specifically around food and beverages, canned products, packaging, these guys specifically now face because of legacy systems and so on and so forth, and how they can optimize for production efficiency, reduce downtime, increase productivity, safety, and compliance, all in one go with AI. And the cost through AI has become so much cheaper than what it was before. So today I'm speaking with Chris. My background is I run technologies. I'm an ex-Accenture, ex-Rice University here in Houston grad, and did computer science, mathematics, economics, worked at Fortune 100 companies advising on technology architecture. And I'm joined by Chris, who is a veteran in the industry, who has built multiple software for Fortune 100 companies, and also some of the manufacturing entities that we know of. So I'll let Chris do his own introduction from here on.
Yeah, thanks, Hadi. Yeah, my name's Chris Howard. I'm the founder and CEO of Softtech. Softtech's a 3-decade-old now hardware and software development firm, headquartered in Houston, but offices worldwide. Do everything from hardware to firmware, mobile, web backend, AI, ML, and data analytics under one roof. And think smart devices and IT, like all those boxes. And the first the advanced in edge AI for the devices. So thanks for having me on the call today, Hadi.
Awesome. All right, sweet job. So why AI in manufacturing, right? Why is AI a good topic today? One of the biggest challenges of manufacturing folks is that they are faced with legacy systems, specifically, working on PLCs, data that's siloed on the line itself, rather than centralized, that they can query and utilize in runtime. They see downtime and inefficiencies, for example, downtime costing in some factories, according to McKinsey. Specifically, downtime with lack of spare part planning and supply chain. All of this can be coined down and solved with AI. And the best thing about AI nowadays is the compliance and safety risks. So with video analytics, for instance, you can focus on smoke, fire detection, make sure that your GMP, OSHA, and EPA standards are being met. You can do proactive problem solving rather than waiting for it. And I think, Chris, I'll pass it to you to talk a little about lack of real-time data and visibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that there's so much that can be done now, and that we're seeing being done with vision, even in manufacturing, to help enforce safety zones, safety issues, best practices and processes, and with AI, you can really address the lack of real-time data that we have now. So much of what's in manufacturing is not very smart, right? So the idea is to add AI to that to fix some of those problems.
100%. So AI not only addresses the existing inefficiencies, but also provides proactive solutions that continuously improve the manufacturing operations. So one of the biggest things that AI has done is, through the collection of data and utilization of it, it has made it easy for decisions to be made at edge. And we're going to talk a little bit about those systems that you can put in place for that to happen. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So what are some of the solutions that it offers in today's world that you can buy with cheap sensors, cheap PLCs that you couldn't buy, even 5 years ago? As example, Chris recently had a webinar on Arduino, and that's like $100 you can deploy a computer vision model on. So the IoT sensors that are in play right now, especially with the Jetson Nanos that NVIDIA has launched, the vision systems that are in play, the cameras having a chip themselves to do simple smoke, fire detection model deployments. And the best thing is, like a company like ours, we're partnered with TechTel and other businesses that deploy these camera systems across the nation, even in Australia. We're doing a project in Australia for a rail yard company to enhance operational efficiency at edge. And they do a lot of plastic manufacturing in that area. So the PPE compliance of the yard, the hard hat detection, all of that is in one specific software. And AI has enabled us to do that in real time, which wasn't something that we could do even a couple of years ago at the cost that we can today. And the third thing is troubleshooting and maintenance. Chris, I'll let you have a go at that.
Sure. I mean, predictive maintenance, I think, is a huge, area that manufacturing can improve on, right? So what we're seeing is adding sensors to devices, both from a temperature perspective, but also, say, vibration, trying to, understand whether a piece of hardware is wearing down, it's vibrating more, it's about to fail, rather than waiting for the failure, which then can also be very costly, because then you have downtime. So if you can be proactive in understanding whether there's equipment on your manufacturing line that is not performing to spec, to RPM, to heat, to vibration, etc., it makes a huge impact without a lot of cost adder.
Absolutely. And let's go to the next slide and talk about the impact. So one of the projects recently that take great pride in is to get the real-time monitoring and operational efficiency of packaging lines in a dashboard in real time. So the real-time, how this happened was essentially putting sensors across the entire packaging line that picked up the counts of each package that was going by, because vision systems at the complexity were proving to be too expensive. And we were able to get efficiency, and we're going to talk about that case study in the next slide, efficiency up by 12%, just by adding these sensors and getting real-time tracking data and making sure that each downtime was tagged, so that we could analyze in the longer term what the downtimes were and why were they occurring, so that we could do a predictive maintenance toggle on top. So the downtime alerting and predictions, getting that automated through data that's already in the factories. That's the best piece. And early failure detection of any of, as Chris said, if one of the machines is failing and you could detect it early, it could cost you an entire day's worth of production sometimes in factories that are not as efficient in replacing parts. So compliance and safety coming on top, with one use case being OSHA detection, OSHA compliance and GMP compliance, which is good manufacturing practice that you have to do for manufacturing in the US, United States. Some of these things are built into systems, and we're going to talk about some of those systems that are on display today. And energy and monitoring, energy management, spend tracking, this is something that comes with that ecosystem where you're grabbing all that data. So one of the biggest challenges also is grabbing all of this data in the right manner. Chris, I'll let you talk about that from your experiences. How's that has happened, and what challenges have you faced?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that AI starts with data collection, right? And if you're not collecting your data, then you really can't apply AI on top of it. And that's why you really want to have, these devices in your environment, the sensors in the right place, the vision in the right place, collecting that so you have a data lake that you can then, apply AI against it and provide that oversight and give you those real-time alerts so that you can be, immediately reactive. I mean, the old days of having a camera on something and then having to go back and view that video, it's just too time consuming. But now you essentially have an AI agent that's sitting on top, analyzing it in real time, but then also using AI to look at, what's happened in the past to predict what might happen in the future. You need to do the data collection. You need to store that in the cloud. And then it's really a combination approach of like, what can you do quickly at the edge with AI? And so many tools now allow you to do that and not be so expensive. And then what you do in the cloud in a more longer term enterprise approach. It's really a dual method. But data, it all begins with data.
Yep. Absolutely. And the best part is if the sensors are even siloed, we can add an Arduino chip to those to the PLCs and push that data to the cloud. We just did a similar project for one of the manufacturing companies that wanted to just push all of that data into an Azure data lake so that they could do the analyzing piece after that. So this wasn't possible a few years ago, and I'm talking like 10 years ago at the cost that you can do it today. So very good to hear about that. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about a specific case study that we've solved. So we partner with ProCheck to implement real-time monitoring and digital OE solutions. What that means and what we were able to do for them is we were able to increase their efficiency of a line by 12%. Think how we increase the improvement focus and cycle time intelligence. Basically, if they could save even 24 hours for each shift that the machine was on for, that was a lot more product that they could ship. So we were actually mentioned in GSK's quarterly updates to their investors, how we've deployed this in 13 countries. And it's a product called ProCheck that we've built with them. Chris, would you like to talk about a specific example of getting dashboard data up that increased efficiency like this?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, having a dashboard, is of course really, one of the first things you need to have. Doesn't mean you need to have someone sitting there watching it all the time, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't having a dashboard, but it shows you what's going on in real time with your system is incredibly helpful. I don't have a specific example here, but we've done a lot with, in med tech, looking at, processes and procedures and validating, who's in the room, how long they're in the room, how long surgeries are taking, what's going on in the inventory, what's going on a patient and how they're connected, and are they connected to those, devices, properly, and are they being serviced properly by the nursing and staff? And so, and you can collate all of that on a dashboard in like the nurses station, for example, so that you're seeing things, with some oversight.
100%. One of the biggest feedback from their plant head was that, we've helped them reduce any unplanned downtime by 90%. And that was huge because, and if you can save a downtime that is not, you need planned downtimes because you can, let your shift go, but unplanned downtimes, that costs a lot more money. So that's invaluable for continuous improvement, because at the end of the day, their floor operations become smoother, the implementation in real-time to the leadership can get up and improve. So that was huge for us, because that means that 12% is not the only thing that will happen. Let's talk about the vision system case studies, where we had a client who had a high downtime due to undetected issues, and we use RDI, which is a camera system that detects motion to figure out the temperature, and if any irregularity from the motion is occurring, it could then give an alert of predicted maintenance. And this increased their downtime, decreased their unplanned downtime again. So, vision systems to do PPE compliance, to do fire and safety checks, hazard detections is now pretty normal. And within centralized ecosystem for your vision, you can actually get a lot of data cleared. And that's one of the biggest things, like with a 24/7 on agent that is looking at a video and figuring out, okay, does it alter my compliance check or not? It's huge, because when you're facing real-time GMP compliance issues, sorry about that audio, but even having like alien material in your packaging yard, that is also huge. So detecting that is critical in these businesses. So the vision systems can do things like that too. not just the PPE detection, but also working on the line, doing the count checks, and so on and so forth.
How much of that was being done at the edge, Hadi, versus the cloud?
So, yeah, very good question. So actually, we deployed a Tesla GPU at edge with a server back LAN cable into the wired cameras, and that enabled us to bring the lag from point to point to milliseconds, lesser than milliseconds actually, and we were doing detection within a second for any compliance issue. So that was pretty critical. And the factory required that. So very good question. And I would like to ask, let's move to the next slide. I would like to ask you if you've deployed any vision system case studies that you'd like to talk about, because I feel like a vision system is something that's now pretty normalized across the manufacturing industry.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that I talked about earlier, and I can't name logos right now, but they are, everyone would recognize what they are, but it's more in the med tech, med health, hospital space, and there's some unique challenges there too. That, for example, with GDPR and with say hospitals and Wi-Fi. Right, and often you need to do things that are off the network, and then also doing like real time, face obfuscation, because you don't necessarily need to know if you're not detecting who. It doesn't really matter. It's just a person, and so being able to say obfuscate the face and store that data in the video so that you're not violating any GDPR, for example, it's a unique case that you can do also at the edge, and that applies to
similar
other
public
components. Yeah, exactly. So so you kind of do the face obfuscation at the edge, and then you can do some of the video analysis that maybe both at the edge and also offline, in the cloud.
And doing facial detection is actually something that you have to take care of even in factories. So we have to blur out the facial features so that we are following some of the compliances, GDPR compliances specifically. So I think that's a very, very crucial use case. So next, let's talk about machine AI. Machine AI is essentially something that was created from ChatGPT. So think about your SOPs, manuals, predictive data, sensor data, all of that within one RAG model that is only for that machine, for instance, right? So you have a small engine running, you have a turbine running, you have a compressor running, very specific. And we've worked with compressor units from Juray on this to load all of that data into a single RAG model. And you can sign up today at machine.lictech.com. Very simple manual monitoring of production lines. But what we were able to do is that you can query that data in real time and ask questions like, hey, how can I turn this on? What is that nut and bolt for? So we're going to see a quick video, just like one question, I think maybe even further on. Yeah. Can you go further on? Yes. So I think we did it like a simple question. Okay, what are some of the data points of this machine that I'm looking at? And this stems from a project that we did earlier on with Google Glass, looking at that machine and then asking a question about, hey, what is this nut bolt for? And having that answer in an instant that, oh, this is for something that's specific to use case 1 or use case 2. So you can ask questions like, okay, do we have anything in the spare that I can replace it with? It can give flow charts, step-by-step actions on how to turn it on, turn things off. So very crucial for edge teams that are working on machines, generators even. So even small companies use this sometimes for managing their HVAC systems to ask questions. Okay, my HVAC unit is doing this. What should I do? So this is one thing that I feel like AI is really blown out of the park and can be deployed very easily too. Chris, what do you have to say about NLP and LLMs in the AI space now?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting what you can do on devices on the edge. And like you brought up earlier, it's not all LLMs, right? I mean, it's you can have, for example, the Arduino Q that just came out, and it's got an MLP and an MLC on the device, and you can have a very economical, pre-configured platform to create some pretty unique sensing and edge AI cases that aren't necessarily off the shelf, and deploy them without having to manufacture thousands or tens of thousands of devices, because you're buying something that's already available, and you can code them fairly easily to do what you want. But everyone has this AI in their head. They think it's all chat GPT, LLMs, and you need large data centers. But with machine learning, you can do that on other machines actually, and devices, without having to plug into Perplexity or whatever your model of choice is.
100%. And doing it at the edge, that's just icing on the cake, right? So your data doesn't go anywhere. It's right there with you, and you can do whatever with it afterwards. Awesome. Let's go to the next slide. I think we're going to be wrapping it up with just one small thing, which is the HR functions. You can automate those through Sally, which is another tool out there, Sally AI, for your inbound calls. So AI helps a lot in manufacturing and just overall operations. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to wrap it up, give you some time back for questions and answers if you have any. We will offer a free consultation if you join us, if you sign up on our website. So we'll have a conversation about what your needs are, and if you need a tailored solution, or if any of these platforms are already built, or some of them you'll like to use. Chris, do you want to give the closing notes?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a really exciting time to be able to deploy these types of solutions in many areas. And I think the message today is you can do it fairly economically as well, and reap the benefits of what AI has to offer. So if you're curious about it, definitely reach out to Liquid Technologies, reach out to Soft Tech. I mean, we have a lot of experience in this area, and we're happy to talk to you about what you're trying to do and how we can improve, both with hardware and software, using the edge AI tools out there that are available today.
100%. Awesome. If you guys have any questions, the floor is now open. You can also write it in chat and we'll pick it up. If not, thank you all for joining in today, and we'll like to close it 5 minutes early. Have a great day.
Plus, with machine learning, they don't get smart enough to take over the world, right?
I mean, I feel with robots that Elon is deploying right now, imagine them in the factory. Because there's a lot of use cases where custom things need to be done on the assembly line, and that really changes the robot being there with the vision systems, make sure no errors are occurring. Some of these models are at 99% accuracy. That's more than humans sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. How do you see this future panning out, by the way? This is a good question to also ask.
Well, no, it's a good time to be alive at this point in our human history. Yeah. But the robots are coming. There are going to be humanoid robots. I think it makes a lot of sense because this is a human architected world. But there's a lot of other areas where you can add smarts to devices that don't have to be sentient. But there's a good robotic companies here in Houston, for example. And not just the Teslas of the world, but it's exciting to see what's coming out.
Yep. What has been because I feel like your career spans the start of this entire change and where we are today. So, what would be one thing that you can highlight? Okay, I saw this coming back then when I saw that.
Well, I've always been a big sci-fi fanatic, so definitely saw the future through the various sci-fi authors out there. It took a while. I mean, I started my career storing programs on with holes in paper, right? Paper punched tape, paper punched holes and hollow earth cards, and so we've come a long way from that in the last 40 years. And so if you think of how most people think linearly. What we're really happening though is exponential change, and so we're going to see so much change over the next 40 years. Are going to be 10 to 100x what happened in the previous 40. We've gone from paper holes to $1 trillion practically data centers, storing and being able to do actual AI. It's been a long time coming. There's been the promise of AI for many, many years, but now it's finally here.
I think there's still a little bit more to go, and that's what is going to be the fun ride. So the next generation that's coming in, I was talking to my nephew the other day. He has a little world of his own in Roblox. I don't know if you know about this, but there is an entire 3D, like a digital twin of the world happening. So you know how we have digital twins in factories. Project, for example, being a digital twin of a factory, right? So your lines, what is the status? How can they collate, talking to each other? What's product going from one spot to another? Every kid, imagine, has an entire life architected within Roblox, and how fast it happened, because I feel like even 5 years ago it came into being, Roblox. How quickly that changed, that now it's human nature or kid nature, something that's very common, and they meet friends there.
The kids are going to be thinking in 3D, right? So that's going to be more their world. But you see, like, even I think it was the Apple AI factory here. I might be mistaken, but one of the big factories recently just talked about how they mapped everything in a digital twin. The whole factory, the robots, everything were lined out in a digital twin that was fully functional before they even started building the factory. So they got to test everything out before they actually built something in the physical world. And I think that's pretty exciting. And that's how a lot of in fact, NVIDIA does something similar with their chips, right? So they don't tape out a chip until they've actually created that digital twin and tested everything and then taped it out. And that's why they don't have, a large failure rates. They learned from their first mistake, because their very first tape out, they did fail, and it was for Sony. And somehow he convinced Sony to still pay for that. So I'll talk about AI. My lights just automatically went out. Hey, turn my lights back on. My lights need to be smarter. It's a dumb light.
That's funny. Everything is automated, even office spaces. So I can see that happening with Alexa.
Throw something into the lights.
All right, let's close this for today. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Have a great one. Bye. All right, I think we got one question. We got one question.
Did.
Yeah. Do you provide cameras with AI solution or connect with our cameras? So both can happen. I feel like now, if you have a CCTV camera system deployed with an NVR in place, or a DVR, we can connect through that by connecting like a small Arduino. Or Chris, what would you use for something like that?
Yeah, no, there are cameras out there that do have the ability to add, AI at the edge already off the shelf. You can do some things with existing cameras. It just really depends on what you have, in place. Obviously, if you've got like a large deployment of cameras, you might not want to replace all of them. And so what you'd have to do is, if you have the ability, basically you take those recordings and do what you need to do in the cloud. But if you want more of a real-time edge AI solution, you'd have to replace the camera. But the good news is those cameras aren't super expensive, right? And so the ROI on that is going to be really, really fast. You reduce it, like your case studies, 5, 10, 20, 30% reduction in X, Y, Z is going to give you an ROI of months, not years. Right?
Yeah. With just the lines we use, like for PPE detection, like we solved the compliance issue in 3 months. Because we just put cameras and people were notified if they were out of compliance. So the ROI is very simple, but we do both. We can provide the cameras through our partnerships like Tactile to deploy the AI solution, our AI solution as well, and we can connect with the cameras. Thank you for that question. I think that's about it. If no one else, if there's not a follow-up, if no one else has any other question, let's close this today. Thank you, guys.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, for joining. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Hadi. Bye-bye.